All right. So welcome everybody to the Monday, July 12th, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting. Sorry we're starting a few minutes late. Just for everybody's knowledge in the room, this is being broadcast on and recorded on YouTube. With the end of the pandemic and the reopening, over the last year, people have gotten used to participating online, or at least following along. So we're trying to extend that ability for people to continue to learn what's happening in the village and hear the board meetings. So there's a few people in the room tonight, and we just want to make everybody aware of that. All right, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mitchell, you want to lead us in the pledge, please?
My honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then just per CDC guidelines, we ask everybody to just protect themselves. If anybody isn't vaccinated, we ask that you wear a mask. If you would like to wear a mask, because you want the additional safety, please feel free to. We encourage it. So please take any steps that you feel are necessary. Ronnie, I think the first thing on the agenda is the public hearing.
Yes, can I have a motion to open the public hearing portion of the meeting, please?
I'll make a motion.
Deputy Mayor Rosen, second.
I'll second.
Trustee Collins, all in favor?
Aye.
First, I wanted to preface the public hearing on these three laws by saying that it is the village's policy in the case where a local law is not needed to be enacted in an emergency situation. Policy is that the board will hear the law and have public hearing 3 times before the law is considered for action. These 3 laws that are on the agenda for tonight have currently on their second hearing. So we will have one more hearing for any action. The first law on the agenda is proposed local law C 2021, which would amend the definition of a home professional office. There were copies of the laws that are on the table if anybody's interested. So is there any discussion among the board on the new definitions, which basically...
Excuse me, can you pull the microphone near your mouth, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sen. Is that better?
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so previously our local law defined a home professional office as one that would be occupied by a doctor or a lawyer, a professional in that sense. So the pandemic, people working at home, we are going to remove that requirement and call the office or studio of a practitioner of a profession or business within their dwelling is definition of a home office. Any board discussion?
None. Let's go to the public.
Okay, anybody in the public have any comment?
Ronnie, so just to be clear, the first, that you're deleting that, home professional law.
I'm sorry?
You're deleting the first, the officer, studio, practitioner, so you're not limiting it to a physician, dentist, architect, accountant,
Right,
engineer.
the underlying language will be deleted.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comment at this time, I would like to ask for a motion to continue this hearing to next month.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by the deputy mayor, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Franco, all in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is proposed local law D 2021. This amends the definition of a rear yard. Just for information, this is the definition of what we're talking about are rear yards on corner lots. Corner lots by definition have 2 front yards, and often their rear yard is quite small. So what we're seeing in our zoning board cases is many people coming for variance to use their side yard as their backyard, as their recreation space, because they live on a corner lot. So the zoning board did ask the board to consider amending the code so that all of these cases wouldn't necessarily require a variance. I think that it's pretty simple, that on a corner lot, accessory buildings and structures must be located either in the rear or in the side yard. Anybody on the board have any comment? Anybody in the public? Okay. In that event, could I please have a motion to adjourn this to the Oaks hearing? Trustee Denise makes that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Ernie.
And a minute. All in favor? The third law on our agenda tonight is local law, proposed local law E of 2021. And this is, something that's been in the news. This is, the village would like to opt out of allowing, licensing established retail cannabis dispensaries or on-site cannabis consumption establishments within the village.
And Ronnie, just before we get started, since I've recused myself, I'm gonna step out for this.
Yes. The mayor has professional interest in something related to this law, so he is recused just for this hearing. Okay, so but basically this would mean that in this village, an establishment that either sells cannabis or allows cannabis consumption would be prohibited. Is there any discussion by the board? Okay.
No, I've made lengthy presentations at the last two
Yes, you did.
meetings. And I think this is a good thing, and I'm looking forward to next month so that I can vote in favor of this.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience have any comment, questions? Okay, Dr. Mayu?
Yeah.
Because we're in public hearing, could you just give your name and address to the stenographer?
Okay. Lionel Mayu, 71 Dartmouth Road. I barely could hear Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum, but I hope he said he was against it, because I think we should be opting out totally
I am in
from.
favor of opting out.
Yo, okay.
Yes, I'm in favor of.
I think the screen in front of you blocked
I'm gonna
your,
make it go away.
fine,
I am in favor of, yes, 100% in favor of this local law.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because I think the village should be opting out. It's dangerous for children. And when the law was being considered by the state several months ago, the American College of Physicians was against it. The Medical Society of the State of New York was against it. The Pediatric Society was against it. And numerous other community groups. And I believe that the only purpose the law is serving up in Albany is to increase revenue and not care for the citizens of the state.
Thank you, Dr. Mayu. Well said. Anybody else, any other comment? Okay, there being none, I'm going to ask for a motion to continue the hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Deputy Mayor makes a motion, do we have a second? Trustee Dorfman, all in favor? And that completes the public hearing portion of our meeting. Motion to go out of executive session. I'm sorry, this would be a motion to continue all 3 public hearings to August 2nd and close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Trustee Lewandowski, we have a second.
I'll second.
Trustee Collins, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing session is closed, and I want to thank our stenographer, that's the editor's on tonight. Okay,
Good night.
thank you,
Good
Karen.
night, thank you for coming.
Okay, now that the mayor's rejoined us,
All right, review the minutes from the last meeting. Any questions, comments? Not, I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, who's that second? Okay, those are the minutes of the regular meeting that was held on June 7th and a special meeting that was held on June 21st. All in favor? Thank you. Next on the agenda are the claims.
I have a question. In regards to the claims, I sent out the abstract with the unsolved, being paid, and I just want to confirm before I void the check, we are not paying for unsolved, which is code red. Am I correct?
As of right now, yes. We're,
So-
Ronnie, Randall, and I have to regroup on that, but based on the conversation that we gotta catch up with you on, Ronnie, it sounds like we'll be able to do everything under Blackboard, so.
I'll wait until you give me the
Perfect.
definitive, and then I'll do whatever.
Okay, so that would be notes to trustees that unsolved claim is not being presented for payment at the start. Are there any questions on the other claims? Okay, can I please have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the claims.
Okay, trustee deputy mayor, may I have a motion to approve? Can I get a second?
Mayor, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I'd like to ask at this time, I'd like to ask our treasurer to give us an update on the taxes collected so far.
Taxes collected, a little bit over 942,000 so far. We're still waiting on lump sum payments from some of the mortgage companies because I've said it before, they like to hold on to the money until the very end. So it'll be coming in the next couple of weeks, but we don't have it yet. So,
And when I went back and just compared the abstract from year over year, it seems like we're in the same ballpark as.
yeah,
as
I mean,
last
it's
year.
just, you know.
Have we seen too many people, have we seen many people taking the 30 days or?
You know, they're dribbling in, so, you know, some people just like to pay it right away. Some people like to hold on to it at the last minute
Right.
and, you know.
Okay.
Like I said, mortgage companies are the ones that tend to hold the money because they're dealing with lump sums.
Let's go to the ARC report.
Okay,
Peter?
Mr.
Good evening. This was the ARC report from June 28th. We had 8 items on our agenda. First one is 14A Bonnie Heights Road. That's a new residence. We had some comments on the grading landscape wall issues. So that was the last item we had on that. That was their second time back. And we approved it with that condition. 135 Woodhill Lane, another new residence. That was, I think we called it the zombie house. It's been demolished now. We had a couple little minor comments on coordination of the drawings. Took them, I think that was their third time, so we worked on that. That's it. 46 Hemlock, an addition and exterior alterations, it was mainly in the front, it was a facelift to what was there. That was our second time with that, and we still had some adjustments, but subject to an email approval. Haven't got that yet, but I asked the board to consider that subject to that review and approval. 40 Fernwood, that was our second time back. We still had some issues with elevations, some scale and arrangement issues on things, and asked them to return again. You see 1045 Northern Boulevard a lot. It's kind of approved, but we're going through the process of this last time we got the details on the corners, the window details. And it's just in here because they do come back. We're asking them for more information. And the last item that we're going to ask of them is an actual physical mock-up at the property for the corners and the window details. So that's approved with all with those conditions. 16 Bonnie Heights pool pavilion. It went to zoning. and it went back to zoning, they asked for revision to the roof. What was previously a trellis part, they extended the roof on that. And I think that'll be on your zoning report. They approved the zoning and they came back approved as submitted. 19 Oak Tree, another new dwelling. I'll call it went, this is one of the few that went through the first time. We had one small comment. I'll call it a nice sort of understated colonial on that project. So that, asking for your approval. 82 Country Club Drive, a rear addition and some interior alterations. It was a second floor addition on the back and a little bit of a kitchen. I think I have some wrong comments in there. Ignore those comments. It was approved as noted. Gary, I'm sure you picked that up. That was from another project, because I copied and pasted, I'm sorry. So that's my report for the June 28th meeting.
Peter, at 135 Wood Hill, I thought there was a lot of things to be coordinated in the drawings that we weren't comfortable with. So he hasn't come back with.
He did come back. I got it back recently, and I have to. He didn't send it to me, so I'm going to scan it here and send it out. But he addressed the comments. I think all but one was just a little column shown on the back.
Right.
But he did. It was that little back overhang issue
Right.
that wasn't shown coordinating with the.
But also, there's some roof lines that were not coordinated well.
Yeah. So
I think.
I mean, we're getting clear direction on things. So
Yeah. Well, my point of view is that 135 Wood Hill and 46 Hemlock really should be approved with conditions that they have come back with stuff that is acceptable.
okay. I thought it was through email. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, but I don't think anything's come through.
Yeah.
My point is that you want the board to approve it, but I don't think there's been any formal resubmission of.
Well, so I'm asking to do subject to, because if we're asking to do an email, and it was an email, then we have to wait another month. That's the point, so.
No, normally when we, I guess the point is, just so the board understands, normally when we go through the process and we say, okay, if you can email us your corrections before the board meeting so that we can all sign off on it through email, then it can be presented to the board for approval. But if that hasn't been done, and I feel like we're kind of hanging out there right now, that we've made it a point of, you gotta come back to us with corrections. And if the committee has not seen the corrections, then I think we need to make sure the board understands that that's still.
Right. I mean, not getting a permit till that's reviewed and approved. Again, I'm just trying to save a month for people. And they, they sort of promised, oh, we'll get it before, but we're busy now, so things are coming out of architect's offices slower, so. Maybe I'm too nice a guy.
I think you are. I'd be more hard-nosed about it, like get it in or else. I mean, I think the threat will actually work, rather than, I mean, I understand there's certain circumstances when it's maybe a short period between, but they actually had a long period, despite there being a holiday.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question? So, Gary, your impression of the board expectation was you were going to see corrections again before it came to the board of trustees?
Right.
Okay. Right. So then let's just pull these two out for now, and unless, we could say approved,
I'm comfortable with not delaying their process for going ahead, but I think we should just, especially given that they had literally 3 weeks to get the stuff in, that we really shouldn't have done it.
Well, yeah, what I'm asking for is an approval subject to.
Right.
It is subject to, it's not, we're not dismissing the comments. And the reason, the reason in these cases, I think we gave, very clear comments, so it could have been followed simply by, the direct comments. And so, again, they're not getting a permit until we get the blessing of ARC.
Okay, so then we're approving this subject to the condition that ARC sees the final revisions.
Yes.
For 135 Woodhill, 46. Correct. Any other questions from board members? All right. Motion to approve, I'll make a motion to approve.
I just want to clarify, so nothing is changing on your report?
What's changing on my report are the comments on the
No,
la-
I mean, the determination on each case remains the same?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
So the approved with conditions is approved with
Includes
conditions.
135 Woodhill and 46 Hemlock being seen by the ARC via email
Prior to what?
prior to your giving final approval. All right.
Thank you. Do we have, can I please have a motion to approve the findings of the architectural review committee?
I'm going to go, Gary made the motion, I'll second.
Trustee Lewandowski, second by Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have several members of the public. Do you want to go to,
Yeah, so first, let's talk about the history report first. Last month, Mitchell Schwartz, one of our village historians, presented a very thorough history of the village and the different locations throughout the village that were historical in nature. I think really setting a foundation for us documenting our history in a more formal way in physical locations throughout the village. So I think hope everybody got a chance to review it and look at it. Does the board have any comments or questions? If not, we can formally adopt that and allow Mitchell and Rhoda to kind of move forward with building that out further. And I think work with the Parks and Beautification Committee and whoever else to kind of build that out.
I think, my only comment would be is, I think it would be really difficult to run the whole program out in one fell swoop. I think we probably want to phase it. So that's the only real comment. I mean, I think it's great, all that stuff is great. I mean, if we can actually do everything that's in it, it would be astounding, quite frankly. But I do think we want to be sure that we kind of take reasonable bites at it.
Mitchell and I have spoken, and like, he understands this is not happening. He wants it that way, but it's not gonna happen for the SDGs.
And it's fine. I mean, I think it just gives us a chance to sort of prioritize the things that are probably more important and then just be able to keep, every year be able to kind of roll out additional stuff, which I think is always good because then we'll have something to write about too.
Exactly.
Mary Jo,
Just some questions. I know we also talked about the Eagle Scout Cemetery project.
Yeah.
Is that happening or?
So I
I
haven't heard
haven't
anything
gotten
back.
anything back from,
He was,
yeah.
he was
Okay.
supposed to get final approval for the.
Oh, from his,
From-
right, okay,
Yeah, he was looking for us to okay it so that he could propose it, so.
okay. And then secondly, I guess maybe more from Mitchell, in terms of the, as we move forward, like what's the, are you gonna write the guidebook and the trail map?
Everything's already done.
Oh, it's already done?
Everything.
Oh gee, okay, why did I not know that? That doesn't surprise me.
Check your email.
Okay.
I think, but no, I think to Gary's point, right,
It's the link, the Google Doc link.
Yes.
From that, and then it goes to maps, goes to the documentation. Yeah, it's not physically in the documents you see, you just have to click.
Okay.
but I think as part of that, right, there's, to Gary's point, like there's
Yep.
other things that you want to build upon that will work out.
Everything, everything's phased.
And so,
All this phase would just be approving the guidebooks and the locations, that's all that is.
I mean, I'd love to see this on the website and have, like different areas, because it is a lot, you can't do it all at once. But somebody who lives up on like Chestnut Road, say, Jake, look at this one, let's, just do our section, and, someone that has it, let's do this section over here. And I think the ultimate goal is to get it up and get people using it.
Do you have access to historical photographs that could be links onto the actual map?
Yes.
Yeah, great, because that would be terrific. That'd be a great thing for people to browse through and.
Oh, I completely agree.
Great.
and I think graphically wise too, maybe we enlist our former trustee, Heber, and, help create a PDF with really jazzed up graphics and things like that. And maybe Jay will run away from us. Is he still answering our phone calls or?
Yes.
We enlist him a lot. All right, well, then I'll make a motion to formally approve the historical report and guide for the Village of Flower Hill.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you, Rachel, great work.
And I will email out again all the guidebooks and all the maps after this meeting. Thank you. I'm honored to get this position.
Sorry, Rachel. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Tennant, I believe. I think, do you want to speak now or wait for?
Yeah, my name is Mr. Snedden. I've been here before, complained about the same thing. And I handed a letter in to the village at the end of last week, concerned about when you got the speeding in the village and the not stopping at stop signs. And also you got this continued leaf blower from the contractors. I'm actually a first name basis with Robert, the code enforcer, and I probably call him at least once a week. And, you know, I've spoken to people around there in the area where they've been doing it, and they go, oh yeah, we know about it, but it still keeps going on. The biggest problem is St. Francis. And I've been told by Bob or Robert that they're a corporation and they own the place. Well, is a corporation a person? As an individual? If an individual hires a person to leaf blow their property, then he's a contractor. So obviously, the people that own St. Francis are paying people to leaf blow their property. So that person is a contractor. So what's the answer here? Are they allowed to leaf blow in the morning when I'm having my coffee in the backyard and I've got this noise going on across the fence?
Does that happen on Saturdays or is that during the week?
No, it just happens during the week. But as far as I know, you've got the leaf blower ban is all the time.
No, it's
Well,
gas.
I'm obviously getting the wrong message because I was told that there was no leaf blowing in the village after June 15th.
It's gas leaf blowers.
So gas blowers, yes. If it's electric, then it's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the noise.
But they're using gas just.
But they're using gas blowers. So, this is another thing I'm complaining about.
Yeah.
But then we're told that you got the village lawyer was looking into it. And I'm going, well, is this an individual or a corporation? Is a corporation a homeowner? No, they're not. They're a business. So obviously they're hiring someone, they're paying someone to do this. But if my neighbor pays someone to blow their yard, that's a contractor. So what's the problem here then? Are they allowed to do this or are they not allowed to do this?
You can't use glass leaf blowers, but what I am going to do is I'm going to call the director of facilities who I work with him quite a great deal in the village, and let me know there's contractors who are not using electric blowers, and then he's going next time it happens, if you could call us.
Oh, I keep calling Bob every week. And
You know, like, if
I get the same thing. We're speaking to the people there, they've spoken to you got the maintenance guy. It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
I've spoken to the people who've been doing it.
So
And they're saying, my boss says I've got to do this.
Yeah, so.
I'm not
on
complaining
St.
about the
Francis-
people, I'm complaining about the organization
Yeah.
that's still getting away with it.
So let us talk to St. Francis. What I'd say too is, Steve, if we can connect with Jeff on I'd like to get an answer to that too, is if St. Francis falls under that or not, because it's a commercial landscape.
The landscaper has to be licensed in the village, and then the keep his license, so you can't use gas blowers.
But you know, Bernie, and I think to your point, we also have to consider, we have a golf course, within our confines, and, you know, North Hempstead, which my backyard,
Yeah, but it's the same thing.
yeah, but my understanding is they don't fall under the same.
They don't, right, because they don't use the landscape.
Our local law was written to exclude the golf course.
But not the hospital.
The hospital never mentioned, the only thing excluded in our local law, not town offensive, but our local law was specifically to exclude the golf course because it was very impractical for them
All right.
electric.
Well, yeah, I think we just need better enforcement, that's all.
Let's see,
But
hold
then
on,
you
the
don't
question
have
is,
to
can they be
say-
enforced again? Steve, let's ask the council here. Do you know, or do you need to do research around this? Because I know you're pinch hitting tonight, so.
Absent something contrary to code, corporate citizens are just as much obliged to obey the code as natural person citizens.
We do have a carve out that says residents can use their boilers.
Yes, I've heard that, yeah. Residents.
So if that's where I go, if it's a St. Francis employee, maybe they're exempted from our law. I think we gotta take a look at it. And,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, what you got is St. Francis an owner or their corporation?
so let us get
If
back
I
to
know
that.
not hire someone, then they can't blow their yard. If St. Francis pays someone to do it, then they can. And that's what I'm being told at the moment.
Okay, so we will get back to you tomorrow with an answer on this, okay? How's that sound?
I don't think I have your number.
Sorry?
I don't think I have your
It's in,
number.
no, it's in the letter.
516-627.
I'm on the letter. but I haven't
3027.
had it, so-
Okay.
It's on the letter, right?
Yeah, it's on the letter. But also, it's
And
what
the
you
other-
got, it's
the other
the,
issue, I had police here, and I guess when got your letter,
okay,
they came in and we talked about enforcement. And they told me that they are going to make sure that everyone, our patrol people, is aware that they need to be more active.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially with stop
Because-
signs and speeding.
Nobody stops at stop signs.
so when you got, I live basically from 150 feet from 2 stop signs. And almost no one stops at them.
Because
And
I've been saying this for the 4 years I've been on the board.
They,
Yeah.
they,
I had a stop sign in front of my house, I don't think I've ever seen anybody stop me.
they put a stop sign at the end of Oak Tree Lane for reasons I don't understand, because there were a lot of accidents there anyhow, and there was one on Crab Apple coming, if you were coming this way, I guess north. If one person in 100 stops, other than him or me,
That's me.
yeah, because it's.
I do the same. I
I've
stop
had
at every
people,
stop
when I
sign.
stopped, shoot their car around me. And I'm not stopping for a long time, I'm stopping. Go to a stop and start again. And I mean, that we've had no accidents is a miracle.
Getting back to the leak blowers, just a quick question. So all the contractors are still using gas-powered leak blowers. So are we?
No, not all of them, there's
A lot.
one.
Mine are, and I said that they're not allowed to use them, and they're like,
So-
so we have to talk about this.
Well, we issued like
Two-
45 summonses and
Yeah.
stuff when this year.
The only thing we can do is issue summonses, and then in court, prosecutors, if they're repeat offenders, can push for, eventual suspension of their license, I think, but that's a process, right? So if we gave somebody a ticket in June, I don't know, Steve, when do they go before the judge? I mean, this is the first, right, last year was the first year, this is the second year. It's gonna take a little time to, Randall sent a text, I've seen other people send texts and emails, and you're calling Robert all the time, and
Yeah, at
nobody's
least once a week.
responding and writing violations. So unfortunately, we gotta let the process play out, and I think what we're gonna have to end up doing is suspending some people's licenses at some point,
And also,
the other part of the letter was, I suggested that they put stop sign, speed bumps
So we
Yeah,
just,
I was
we got-
telling Mrs. Sin that we're going to.
before the stop sign.
Speed
At
bumps.
least it will slow them down, may not stop them, but will slow them down.
so we are starting.
Because
a pilot
literally
project.
everyone goes through it, contractors, school buses even go through. And, and, I mean, I'm not saying against the police, but they don't stop at them either.
Yeah.
They just drive through them.
So we are starting a pilot project, we are in the process of acquiring speed tables, and we're gonna put them at different intersections around the village, and we're gonna see if that helps. We're trying out different things, we tried the drive let your kids live here signs. I think it brought attention to it, now I think people are numb to it, so we're gonna try some physical measures and let's see where we get to, and I think we're, I just spoke to the POW officers outside too when I stepped out, and they talked to the officers already today. So I think we just gotta keep the pressure up and continue to ask for enforcement. Ronnie and I were just talking, there's no way for us to do enforcement on our own on stop signs, that has to be the police, so, there's limitations to what we can do, but I hear you, and we're gonna start this pilot project, and we'll see how it goes, and hopefully it helps, and if it does, we'll get more.
Because it makes it, but you got worse, the fact that there's no sidewalks here.
Yeah.
People just go around the corner, there could be someone walking with a kid or a dog, and, And a lot of the corners, there's still bushes built up over them. So you can't see clearly around, and they just drive through, and at some point, someone's gonna get hurt.
Thank you very much. We sensitive to it, and we'll get you an answer on the landscaping issue at St. Francis, and we'll keep you updated on the speeding, and we'll let you know if there's anything, any other assistance you can give us there. Okay?
Just to say a positive note, for many years, I realize that we're probably among the few people that always eat outside once the weather's warm, breakfast and whatever. And when I was working, I would be eating breakfast between 7 and 8. And the number of times I called and I took my phone up to the fence and say, I had to leave a message and say, you can see on your voicemail what time this is, they're starting again. And as of this morning and as of most of this year, at 1 minute after 8, they'll start, but they're not starting before 8 o'clock.
Which is fine.
Which, yes, all I was
The
asking.
garbage men? Or St. Francis?
It would be landscapers.
Oh, the landscapers, okay.
Landscapers and garbage men, they would collect.
They're actually getting better.
They have, one time, one of them stood behind they knew which house the complaints were coming from because they stood right behind my fence and someone screamed out, "It's 8 o'clock, we can start!"
Oh my
And I
God.
said, "Thank you, yes." But yeah, but they have responded to that.
That's good. Good to hear. All right, we're gonna keep.
Mr. Schwartz has a comment.
Mitchell F. Schwartz, 15
I
Ridge
think
Drive,
that-
West. I just want to quickly add, I have actually had that same problem too, where I stop at a stop sign, somebody decides it's a wise idea to go around me.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out, even though I'm sure it's pretty obvious, it's everywhere in the village. And frankly, we have a stop sign right in front of our house too. It's the same thing. So I'm hoping that the speed tables will be able to do something.
All right, thank you, Mitchell. Village engineers report. Or,
Nick, do you want to talk about Harshton today?
I told Brian kind of about it, but I just found out when we went down there, the water district started marking up and they just cautioned that whole area, so we think it's their pipe.
That's wonderful.
So,
It looks like the main runs right behind the curb, and that's what's leaking.
so they're gonna have to take care of it on us.
Yes.
yeah,
That would have been bad.
Yeah.
That should be good.
So I know some of us have had some conversations about the road bid, but just to kind of inform the rest of the board, on June 25th, we had our bid opening. Our lowest 3 bidders were American Paving at $402,000 and change, Stasi General at $522,000 and change, and Grassi Paving at $548,000 and change. All 3 were noted to have some minor issues with their numbers and their bids. The only bidder that did not have an issue was McGowan and Sons at $551,000 and change. After talking with Jeff, it seems like those 3 lowest bidders, even with their issues, can more than likely be ironed out in the conversation, for whatever one we choose. But at this point, I think it's up to the board to see, do we want to truly go with American Paving at $402,000, whom we had last year, and I think the year prior.
2 years ago.
So we've had both, American for 2 previous years. Their paving work is satisfactory, but getting to that point is always an adventure. It's a constant battle in the field with them.
Steve, what's the between the low bid and the next lowest bid?
It's about 100,000.
Yeah, and how long are they gonna hold this on, because asphalt's going up every day?
I spoke to all 3 low bidders, and they're ready to start the first week, the second week in August at their numbers.
Listen, I think that, unfortunately, yeah, there are some headaches along the way. I'd say some of the issues in the past have been, ironed out. I think it's just unfortunately a contractor that we have to manage, and for the costs that we're getting for satisfactory road work, I think we should kind of stick with it.
Yeah, it's $100,000 worth of headaches.
Yeah.
That's a big.
That's a lot of headaches.
I totally agree.
It's 20,000 maybe.
I think the main thing though, which Brian, you can probably help out with too, is when we do have a pre-construction meeting with them, they've got to have a super on-site full-time that we can talk to when there's an issue. You know, to call a guy that Angelo puts in as a super, and then their response is, listen, you got to talk to Angelo about that. Every question we have, it doesn't work.
Absolutely. Was at the pre-construction meeting last year. I think Angelo was receptive to our concerns there. I think that stuff didn't come up again. We were clear about payments and things like that. And let's be clear now on this and the giving us proper notice before canceling a work debt too. I know that was a big headache for you guys.
Yep.
Any other questions or concerns from the board? If not, we make a motion to approve the bidding
I
contract.
think the resolution to enter into a contract with American Paving, and authorizing the mayor to execute that contract. Okay,
For the bid that they submitted, correct?
right, the 430.
Right, we do have to talk with them as well about the one error that they had in the numbers.
Yep.
So that will have to be ironed out as well.
Just a small addition to that road work, there is a big tree that has to be taken down in Woodland as well. It was estimated to be about $5,000 because that's the tree, it's coming into the actual road, that roots are actually growing in there.
They're lifting up the road.
Yeah, so just, I know it's not a big
Has
amount, but it's
anybody
like
talked,
$5,000, yeah.
has anybody talked to the resident about it too, so they're aware of it?
I mean, no, but it has to come out no matter what.
Okay. Well, let's make sure we reach out to that
Yeah,
resident and explain the situation.
What's the address of Woodland?
It's right before the
That
oval
that
circle,
little cul-de-sac, that little cul-de-sac,
closest to,
Okay, yeah.
it's basically,
The west end.
the
Oh,
roots
it's
are
on
just,
the, it's on the south side of the street, I know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
that tree is completely just taking up the whole road.
It's a nice tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that to directly in front of somebody's house?
No, it's actually, it's on our right of way too. It's a tree and then they have their bushes in front of their house, so it's,
I mean, yeah, just,
no, we're definitely.
before somebody shows up with the saw,
Yeah.
let them know.
yeah, I just have a feeling if we cut those roots, it's gonna wind up probably dying.
And we should look at ways to replant in that area so that it doesn't impact the road. That'll talk to the
All right, we
resident
could
about that.
definitely put something there, it's no problem.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the paving contract. Somebody like to go for that resolution?
I'll offer the resolution.
And a second,
I'll
trustee Lewandowski. Okay, all in favor? Nobody's opposed or abstaining? Okay, thank you.
And just real quickly, just to go over, I'm gonna talk with Jeff also, as far as when we do the final contract, I'm gonna talk about some verbiage that we can put in there with regards to completion of the project in a timely fashion, having a foreman on the job site, and also,
Decisions.
yeah, because we have to get it taken care of.
So will it be contingent then?
I'm sorry?
So in other words, let's say they don't agree to do that, then is the vote contingent? I mean,
No, it wasn't in the bid document, but
If we're not able to finalize a contract with them, then then this is all contingent. But
right, I mean.
there's the ability to negotiate.
right, I mean, being that they bid on every project that we put out there, I think that they might be more amenable to agreeing, so that there's, good graces for next year.
What we can do with this.
Get what you pay for.
Yeah,
Yes, you
sure.
do.
And I
Let's
think
just not forget it, forget that.
yes,
Get
and
what you pay
I think it's incumbent on us to now next year update our bid documents to cover some of this stuff.
Because that's a big deal, I hear you, and so all this is, that's all well and good, that we're saving $100,000, but how much are we really saving if you guys are gonna be frustrated and your inability to.
Because we have to have Steve on the job
Correct,
as a foreman,
correct.
but we're still not paying him $100,000.
Well, see, but I think that should be made a bigger deal of. And, you know, the one thing about taking the lowest bid, but if the lowest bid is truly the lowest bid for a reason, I think that should be taken into
And the
consideration.
application is to take the lowest responsible. Right.
Right, so
Right,
maybe
but-
this isn't the lowest responsible bid.
Correct, but it sounded like from talking with Jeff, that if we did decide, let's say, to go with Stasi, and they're the most responsible, American, being the low bidder, can protest this and basically delay our contract,
Gotcha.
which, how does, that type of verbiage doesn't make sense, because how can you then go with the lowest, responsible bidder?
What some government, like the city of New York, they have always done it was that there's a 20% spread. So in other words, you can go, you can go with the second bidder if they're more responsible, but their price has to be within 20% of the low bidder. Or they have to be given the opportunity to bring their bid down to within 20% of the.
Okay.
low bid. So we could do a percentage threshold at some point.
But is there anything to protect us from delaying a contract? Or that can always happen, no matter what?
I would suspect that the claim of American would not delay the contract. Their claim would be a claim for money damages. The contract would go forward, but if they were found at a later date by a court to have been aggrieved by some improper action by the village, such as not accepting their bid, their remedy would be monetary damages.
Okay.
That's why you have to be very careful that you have justification for why you're passing over.
And just to also just inform the board quickly, this issue has come up with other villages. I'm currently working with the village of Lawrence. Same issue with American Paving. Came in as the low bidder. Now they're having an issue with a road that they paved that they're not happy with. And they would constantly come in as the low bidder.
What was the issue in Lawrence?
Very thin asphalt.
And we have not had that issue though.
Not yet. We're kind of monitoring them we're on them all the time.
Thank you. All right, so other questions, comments? Yeah, very good, absolutely.
I'm not settled, I mean, I feel for you, and I feel like it should be, it should be laid out more clearly, and not, it sounds like there's a lot of wiggle room for this company. And if it was written, then they wouldn't have the wiggle room, like specifically written.
And that's what I think we need to rectify.
We need to work on that for
going
next
forward in
year.
year's bid, because that's our contract. So,
So it sounds like this is a little too loose for some of the issues this company has had in the past, am I wrong?
yes, but I'd say, well,
But then that language is on leverage too, right? I mean, how are we gonna get them to step up and make sure that the
So-
asphalt's thick enough or whatever it may be?
here becomes the other problem we have, right? Because we're talking about if we do not want to go with them, and Steve, should we go into the executive session to discuss this 11th law?
If you would like some legal advice, we certainly can do that.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so your motion to go.
Well, hold on, let's do this.
You want to piggyback it on?
Let's piggyback this on the accident, run through the rest of the agenda. I think it would be good to get some legal advice as we talk about these issues.
Okay, so let's continue.
Okay. Barney, it's your report.
Okay, first, I just want to let the board know that I received a letter today from the New York State and that we will be getting our American Recovery Act money. And the payment that we're getting is 2 tranches of $499,395. So we can expect 1/2 of that sometime within the next month. Which means my next topic is cloud-based building software and scanning services. So I've been doing a lot of research on getting our village up to into the 21st century. I feel that it's a necessity for us to scan our building files because they're very susceptible to any kind of fire, smoke, water damage. and they're the only copy that we have, and it's a must, it's not a need, it's not a want, this is a need. And then we need the software that will enable us to actually use the scan. So, what I'm learning is that, the software will actually enable our residents and other users to be able to do online searches, gather documents on their own, using the portal. It really is, adds so much value to the village by doing this. Through my discussions with other villages, it seems we're really in the minority of not having these services. Everybody's got their file scanned, they've got Laserfish or some other system that they're using in place, and they're not using our DOS-based building software anymore. General Code, who is our code publisher, has a built-in program called Unicity that meshes with General Code. It also meshes with Laserfish, so that if we go into this project with them using their products, which are all on the New York State contract, therefore we don't need any bids. Everything we could mesh really nicely, we could get it running in a pretty short amount of time. I have a couple of bids on comparable products. I'm just waiting for the final bid on the whole package. The American Recovery Act money is really ideal to use for this project, because you can't just use it for anything. You can't put it in the bank. You can't use it to buy a truck. You have to use this money in a way that will somehow affect people who are, impact people who are affected by COVID, or prepare for future pandemic. So by initiating this software and these programs, we could basically run our office pretty seamlessly without having people come in person. They can do their document searches online, they can get their service, they can, pretty much do anything they want through the online portal. So I think this would be a really great use of that Recovery Act money, and that's what I'm for. Yes.
So,
Anybody have any questions?
no decisions have been made about using the Recovery Act funds towards this. I agree with Brian, we do need to start scanning our documents and, save Mitchell from having to hunt through closets and dusty old files.
Oh, please, it's my pleasure.
It's fun.
And my mother's happy, it gets me off the couch.
Yeah, it should be yelling at us that you're constantly on the screen,
No, she'd be yelling at me otherwise for keeping my tush on the couch, so.
Exactly. But no, in no joke, I think it is something we can do, and we need to do, and we've talked about doing it for a while, but just timing of it is not lined up with budget. Obviously, COVID and other things kind of delayed some of the technology improvements we want to make. So in talking to Ronnie, it sounds like, Ronnie, we can move forward with scanning, right? Start a scanning project, get the files uploaded while we decide what type of software system we can load it onto, because it'll all be PDF. So any of the systems can use it. And so it would be kind of a two-phase process going through this. So I think we'll let Ryan move forward with nailing down a budget for it, and kind of see how we base it. Sounds good?
I remember the resident that was so helpful, that we were, he's now involved in something that this was his pet.
Jeremy, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is he?
he's on the zoning board now, but yes, he's still involved.
Is this in his wheelhouse?
Yeah, I think he can be helpful and kind
He's
of
just
looking at
been
the technology.
super busy with work, and he's
Okay,
not
yeah.
available to us.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we'll get that group together again, just to review the technologies, make sure they integrate well to our systems, and we, have to look at, that was to be held off on the server, because if we're going cloud-based, then we don't need some of the hardware systems in the building.
Right, so these, the software I'm talking about is all cloud-based, so we would really not need a new server, it would be a moot point. So there's like $20,000 in savings on that end.
Zoning board report,
Jeff had sent that out, so if anybody have any questions, I attended the meeting.
yeah, there was only one property on that.
No, there were two, there was a side yard, variance for corner property for generator and side yard.
Okay, that was the generator.
Yeah, and just an amendment to a previously approved, pool house
Right,
roof
that was.
at 16 Bunny Heights.
right, traffic study, we already talked about traffic, I think that covered it, we were requiring the speed tables. I did get a request from a resident, Rich, we got a follow-up, Jen Schulnice about, stop signs over at the spur there, so we'll follow up on that. I think we should go back through the traffic study report, the traffic study committee, the traffic committee, and look at the stop signs. I think we asked for some recommendations in there, and we should make sure that we took action on everything we wanted to.
The police actually asked me if we had any idea of the locations for the speed tables.
We have not set on locations, we have to go back to the report and use the report for the guidance.
Thank you.
How many were ordered? Three?
COVID update, nothing new here. I think we're gonna move this off the agenda going forward. I would just tell people the Delta variant is out there. If you haven't gotten vaccinated and you can get vaccinated, you can get vaccinated. Look at where you're traveling to and take all precautions that are necessary. Okay, trustees, Team Collins, anything on parks and beautification? Thank you for all the great work to date. The flowers in the islands look great, the butterfly garden looks great. Coming in nicely, yeah. The weather, I guess, has helped.
I would just say that, and again, thanks to Rich for all his help, and it would not have happened without his coordination there, so thank you. I would just say, looking forward, so now that we're in July, and we did some of the islands, and we had talked about having something, there are things that, and I'm not a gardener per se, but there are things that can be planted perhaps in the fall, is that right? So
Yeah, she wants to talk about starting putting tulips.
okay,
Because that's when you start planting those in the fall.
right,
She wants to order about, I think, 500 of them,
okay.
anywhere from 500 to 1,000 of them, and then they're just gonna be all across all the islands, so.
So do you want Gary or I to liaise with her in terms of what the estimate costs, or you have the wholesaler, we have our own account now, right?
We have that kind of, but I've been talking to her, every other day and stuff like that about certain things, so, we're on board, whenever you guys are ready, we'll put those, going.
So when would they be planted?
Sometime she said probably the end of October,
Yeah,
give or take.
early.
Yeah.
Early November.
Yeah, October.
Before the first frost.
Frost, exactly, yeah. And then, the stuff that we put now, that usually takes about a year to actually settle. So next year, these things will really pop more. And I guess this is the main theme plant that we're gonna be using a lot of these around all the islands. So we still have to do another 12 more.
Okay.
So we'll slowly keep adding on to the island as we go.
So I would just say, since you're boots on the ground in terms of seeing this every day,
Yeah.
there are, maybe if there's 12, if there's another 6, let's say, that you think we should prioritize,
Yeah, that's what we were.
could you let us know?
Yeah, no problem.
Would that make sense? Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
would also be good to, take progress photos.
Yeah, I
So we
have
can
those.
see, yeah,
I got
because
plenty.
I think it'll help us understand how things mature and how to fill out.
Okay, no problem.
I just want to add, while talking about islands, we had a couple of complaints about the crate myrtles on the Bridge, Rhode Island, that they're blocking sight lines. So, yeah,
Those are big.
they're big. Rich is gonna try to transplant them more.
They're huge. I don't know if I can transplant them, they're too big.
Wait, which island?
You're, the
One by the bridge or the,
Yes.
by the
Those two on the
bridge?
bridge, they actually have
There's two.
pink flowers right now. They're blossoming right now.
Because one of them I thought was not doing very well.
No, they're actually, if you look, they're both actually have pink flowers growing on them now. And there's nothing that, if I trim them, they're just gonna look like a stick, pretty much. So it's either we take them down, I don't have the equipment, they're too tall for me to try to transplant them. So it's either removing them or,
So just.
so Robert agreed, it wasn't such a.
I know, but then there's a second complaint, so I don't,
Yes.
you know what, before we do anything, guys, if you could drive by and tell me what you think, it's blocking visibility.
So you'd rather-
They have landscapers.
Yeah, you go through that.
Landscapers are gonna pull the tree out.
Probably could.
And
I thought I could,
they-
but these things are pretty,
They do it though, they dig around, they re-wall it,
Yeah.
and they pull it out.
might be something like that. If that's what we-
We'll take a look and
Yeah.
we'll regroup on it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and another item is that the pedestrian path has been finished?
All done,
Yeah,
all
so
done.
thank you, Trustee Collins. Yeah, pushing
That's
that.
great.
Yeah.
All done.
Okay.
Just waiting for the.
Oh, and the garden, we have money, we have grant money coming to us from Senator Kaplan. And, because the pedestrian path came in still under budget, we now have more money that, we can use for our, new community meeting place. So, looks like that's gonna be covered by the grants as well.
All right, anything else? Good for that? Thank you. All right, so we did the three.
The only, we received an application for a special use permit for fireworks for the country club, to be held on Friday, September 3rd, the rain date is September 4th. So I need a resolution to hold a public hearing on that.
How come they didn't put the date on there?
I know. Duh,
There's no date on it.
yeah, I know. I just, when they came in today, I said.
It's kind of one of the
"Give me dates, I'd
more
like to
important,
find
one of
out
the
the
more
application."
important details in the fireworks.
Yeah, are you doing it?
Yeah, what day it's gonna be?
So it's Friday.
On any day.
It's Friday, September 3rd, right?
Oh, it's 9 to it.
You put 8 to, if it's 9 to 3, isn't it?
The agenda has it wrong, but it's
It's the
September
Labor Day weekend.
3rd. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the date on the agenda is the date of the public hearing. August 2nd.
That's the next-
Formal
that's the
public
next-
hearing to
right.
the firework permit.
Yeah, this one is.
It's on to just let's put the date on here. Please. Put the date on here. So we have-
Yeah, something like that.
This is incomplete application.
I can't check it. Okay, so, I just need a resolution to hold that public hearing.
I'll make a motion for a resolution to hold a fireworks permit application hearing on August 2nd for the event to take place on September 3rd.
Yes. Okay, do I have a second? Trustee Denise, all in favor? Thank you.
Okay, there also is a history report in the packet that I'll let everybody read through at their own time so we can go into, well, first, there's nobody else from the public for public comment, correct? All right, so I'd like to go into executive session sorry. We have Ed Ross, our attorney for the XNet suit here. Because we are streaming this, Ed, why don't you just give us an update for the public before we go into executive session so that at least anybody who can't be here tonight can actually review it. So quick update on the XNet lawsuit.
Sure, so by way of a brief update, there are a number of lawsuits involving XNet in both this community, surrounding communities. The most prominent ones that I'm also involved in there was a late success lawsuit, which was settled and resolved, and there's currently pending 3 quasi-related actions, one involving Flower Hill, another involving Plandome, and another involving Plandome Manor. All 3 of those federal lawsuits are currently waiting and pending decision before the federal courts. They're each before different judges. As far as the timeline, it's difficult to predict these things. The Flower Hill lawsuit was fully briefed several months after the Flower Hill lawsuit was briefed, so one could reasonably anticipate the Flower Hill case being decided, the Plandome case being decided before the Flower Hill case, but because of judges' differing schedules and timetables, it's somewhat crapshoot as to which will get decided first. And also, I reasonably anticipate that before any decision, because the issues are fairly complex and cutting edge, I would expect the judges in all of the various pending actions to schedule individual oral arguments in each of those cases. That in these types of cases, that tends to occur, and that would predate any sort of decision from the courts. So we're currently, we're waiting decision, but more realistically, we're waiting for the courts to schedule oral argument. And that's, other than that, the lawsuits and excellence application are in advance.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, so now I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss the extent litigation and other matters of legal advice.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
And next, trustee Franklin. All in favor?
Aye. All right, thank you for attending, everybody. Well, Steve and Rich, why don't you stick around for the paving conversation? And we'll wrap that up and talk extended. Okay. Yeah, we'll just stay here.